Hey everyone, welcome back to the deep dive. We've got a really interesting topic to dig into today.
Yeah, this one's been coming up a lot lately.
It has. You all have sent us a ton of stuff about this whole modern data stack thing.
It seems like it's everywhere you look these days.
Totally. But sometimes with these trendy tech terms, it's hard to tell if it's just hype or if there's real substance behind it.
Right, exactly. Is it actually a game changer or just the latest buzzword?
That's what we're here to find out today. We're going to take a deep dive into the modern data stack and see if it lives up to the hype,
We'll get into the nitty-gritty of what it actually is,
what the real benefits are.
and how you might even start building one for your organization.
And our mission today is to cut through the jargon and give you a clear, practical understanding of this whole concept without getting bogged down in too many technical details.
Exactly. We want to make it actionable.
Yeah, no one wants to be drowning in technical jargon.
Definitely not.
One of the big things we've noticed across all these different sources you send us is that the modern data stack seems to be all about improving data sharing and collaboration within a company.
That's a core idea for sure.
So let's jump right in.
Okay, so at its most basic level, the modern data stack, sometimes called MDS for short, is essentially a set of tools.
Tools that work together.
Right, that work together to handle all those different stages of working with data.
So everything from collecting it,
Yeah.
to storing it securely,
Uh-huh,
to transforming it into a usable format,
right?
and then finally to analyzing it to get those valuable insights.
And the ultimate goal of all this is to help organizations save a bunch of resources.
Resources,
Like
right?
time, effort, and of course, money.
So it's about efficiency at the end of the day.
That's a huge part of it. One of the big shifts we're seeing is this emphasis on self-service analytics,
Meaning,
giving people within a company the ability to access and analyze data on their own without needing a dedicated IT team to hold their hand through every step.
that sounds really empowering.
It is. But at the same time, it's not just about giving everyone's free rein with the data.
It can't just be a free-for-all.
Exactly. There also needs to be a focus on data governance,
Making sure that the data is accurate, trustworthy, and managed properly.
so that everyone in the organization can be confident that they're working with reliable information.
So it's a balance between giving people access and freedom to explore,
Yep.
but also making sure that the data itself is well-maintained and trustworthy.
And ultimately, that leads to faster insights.
Because people can work more independently and efficiently.
Exactly.
One thing that's really interesting to me is how this modern data stack seems to be all about connecting the dots.
Connecting the dots.
Yeah, like it's not about ripping out all your old systems and starting from scraps.
Right. It's not about a complete overhaul.
Our sources emphasize integration. It's about finding ways to make all these different systems talk to each other.
Exactly. And that includes those legacy systems that so many companies are still reliant on.
The ones that may be on premises, not in the cloud.
Yep. So it's about bridging that gap between your existing infrastructure and these new cloud-based data tools.
From what I'm seeing, it seems like the actual specific tools that a company chooses might vary depending on their needs and the kind of data they're working with.
That's definitely true. There's no one-size-fits-all approach here.
But it sounds like the overall structure of the modern data stack tends to be fairly consistent.
Yeah, the basic architecture is pretty similar across different organizations, even if the individual components are different.
This makes me think about how different this all is from how things used to be.
Like with those traditional data systems we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, like those legacy systems that were often built for a very specific purpose or to handle a very specific type of data.
Right, they were often very specialized.
And that meant they weren't always very flexible when the needs of the business changed.
Exactly. And they could be really difficult to adapt.
And I can only imagine the headaches that came with trying to get those different systems to talk to each other.
Oh yeah, that could be a real nightmare. Often it involved a ton of custom coding and integration work.
Which meant you needed people with very specific technical skills just to keep things running.
Absolutely. And that's one of the big promises of the modern data stack. It's about making data management more accessible
More accessible to
to a wider range of people within an organization. It's about breaking down those technical barriers that used to prevent people from working with data effectively.
That's a really important point.
It's about democratizing data in a way.
Making it so that you don't need to be a data scientist or a software engineer to be able to extract insight from your data.
Exactly. And the benefits of that are pretty clear.
Like,
Well, for one, it means you can scale your data operations much more easily.
scale how?
Well, you can handle larger volumes of data.
Because you're not limited by the capacity of those old specialized systems.
Right. And you can also support more users accessing and analyzing the data simultaneously.
So it's more scalable in terms of data and in terms of people.
Exactly. And it also gives you more flexibility in terms of the tools you use. You're not locked into one vendor or one specific way of doing things.
Because you can choose what they call best-of-breed tools.
Right, the best tool for each specific task.
Which means you can really tailor your data stack to your organization's unique needs.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, all of this translates into saving time, saving money, and reducing a lot of those headaches that come with managing complex data environments.
So it's not just about better data, it's about making life easier for the people who work with that data.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about what the modern data stack is in general terms.
And how it differs from those older legacy systems.
But I think it's important to dig a little deeper into what actually makes a data stack modern.
Yeah, what are those defining characteristics?
Because, as one of our sources pointed out, modern is kind of a relative term, especially in the world of technology, which is constantly evolving.
Modern today might be outdated tomorrow.
Exactly. So let's break down those key characteristics.
Sounds good.
And luckily, one of the sources he sent us actually included a really helpful visual to illustrate this.
A visual.
Yeah, almost like a diagram or a blueprint of what a modern data stack looks like.
That's handy.
It is. So the first key characteristic is that a modern data stack is what they call warehouse-centric.
Warehouse-centric. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it basically means that the data warehouse, or sometimes the data lakehouse, sits at the heart of the whole system.
It's the central hub.
Exactly. And all the other tools and processes revolve around it.
So it's where all your data ultimately ends up.
Yeah, think of it as the single source of truth for your organization's data.
The single source of truth.
Instead of having data scattered across all these different systems and departments.
Where it's siloed and difficult to access.
Right. The data warehouse brings it all together in one place.
Which makes it much easier to manage, govern, and ensure its quality.
And importantly, it maximizes access to that data.
So more people can use it to make better decisions.
And that's really the whole point, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's warehouse-centric. The second key characteristic is that a modern data stack is, drumroll please,
cloud-based.
You got it.
I was going to say, that seems like a given these days.
It really does. And it makes sense, right?
Yeah, the cloud offers a lot of advantages for managing and working with data.
Absolutely. And the vast majority of those modern data stacks tools that we're talking about are delivered as software as a service, or SaaS.
Meaning they're hosted in the cloud and you access them over the internet.
Exactly. And this has some major benefits.
Right.
Well, for one, you often have the option to try them out with a free trial.
So you can test the waters before you commit.
Exactly. And another big advantage is that you don't have to worry about all the underlying infrastructure and maintenance.
All that stuff is handled by the vendor.
So you can focus on actually using the tools and getting value from your data.
Instead of spending time troubleshooting servers and installing software updates.
Right. You leave all the technical heavy lifting to the experts.
And that can free up a lot of time and resources.
The third defining characteristic of a modern data stack is that it's highly scalable.
Scalable.
Now, when we talk about scalability in this context, we're actually talking about a few different things.
It's not just about one thing.
Right. So first, there's data scalability.
Meaning the system can handle massive amounts of data.
Like millions, billions, even trillions of records.
And it can do that without slowing down or crashing.
That's huge. Then there's user scalability.
Which means that the system can support a large number of users accessing and working with that data at the same time.
And finally, there's use case scalability.
Meaning the system can handle increasingly complex analytics applications and different ways of using that data.
So it's about being able to grow and adapt as your needs change.
Exactly. And the cloud makes this kind of scalability possible.
Because you can easily add more computing power and storage as needed.
It's much more flexible than traditional on-premises systems.
Okay, so we've got warehouse-centric, cloud-based, and highly scalable. What's next?
The fourth key characteristic of a modern data stack is that it's modular.
Modular.
Yeah, and best of breed.
So what does that mean in practice?
Well, it means you're not stuck with a single vendor or a suite of tools that might not be the perfect fit for every single need.
You have the freedom to choose.
Exactly. You can pick and choose the best tool for each specific job, kind of like building with Legos.
That's a good analogy. So you can have one tool that's amazing for data ingestion.
And another one that's perfect for data transformation.
And another one that's great for visualization.
Right. And because these tools are designed to work together, you can easily swap them out if you need to.
So if a better tool comes along or your needs change, you're not stuck.
Exactly. You have the flexibility to adapt and evolve your data stack as your organization grows and changes.
And that's really important in today's fast-paced business environment. Okay, so last but not least, the fifth characteristic of a modern data stack is that it's easy to configure and learn.
This is one that we hear a lot about.
It's all about making data accessible to everyone, right?
Exactly. The goal is to empower a wider range of people within an organization to work with data effectively.
Not just the data scientists and the IT folks.
Right, the tools are designed to be user-friendly and intuitive, with less emphasis on deep technical skills and more on user experience.
So you don't need to be a coding expert to be able to use them.
Exactly, and that could be a huge advantage for organizations.
Okay, so we've covered the 5 key characteristics of a modern data stack.
We've got a good understanding of what it is now.
But the big question is, why should companies actually bother to make this change?
Yeah, what are the real tangible reasons to modernize your data infrastructure?
Our research has shown that there are 3 main reasons that really stand out.
Let's hear them.
Okay, so reason number 1 is that a modern data stack can help you work much more efficiently.
Efficiency is always a good thing.
It is, and the technologies involved in a modern data stack are designed with usability and manageability in mind.
They're built to make your life easier.
Exactly. So whether you're managing your data warehouse or building reports and dashboards, the goal is to be able to do it much faster and with less effort.
So you can spend less time wrestling with the tools.
And more time actually analyzing the data and extracting valuable insights.
I like the sound of that.
Reason number 2 is automation and reusability.
Tell me more about that.
So a modern data stack makes it much easier to automate a lot of those manual, repetitive tasks that used to take up so much time.
Like,
Well, one big example is data replication.
which is?
Basically, keeping the data in your central data warehouse up to date with any changes that happen in your source systems.
So you don't have to manually update everything all the time.
Exactly, and these modern tools can do that automatically.
That sounds like a huge time saver.
It is, and the other key thing here is that these tools are designed to play nicely with each other.
To integrate seamlessly.
Right, they often use APIs to communicate and share information.
APIs.
Yeah, think of an API as a kind of a digital messenger.
That allows different software applications to talk to each other and exchange data.
Exactly. So instead of having all these isolated tools and systems, you have a more connected and automated data ecosystem.
Where everything works together smoothly.
And that brings us to the third big reason to modernize your data infrastructure, the shift towards operational analytics.
Operational analytics. What is that exactly?
Well, it's about being able to use your data to make real-time decisions that impact your day-to-day operations.
So it's not just about looking at historical data and trends.
It's about being able to access and analyze live data to make quick, informed decisions.
And how does a modern data stack enable that?
Well, first of all, these modern tools are often much quicker and easier to set up than traditional systems.
So you can start generating insights faster.
Right, and they often don't require a huge IT team to manage them.
So you can reduce those overhead costs.
And because they can connect to such a wide range of data sources, both internal and external,
You can get a more complete and accurate view of your operations.
and that means you can make better decisions faster.
It's about being more agile and responsive.
Exactly. So imagine, for example, a retail company being able to track sales data in real time.
And use that data to adjust pricing, inventory, or marketing campaigns on the fly.
That's the power of operational analytics.
It's about turning data into action.
Okay, so let's say an organization has bought into the idea of a modern data stack.
They're convinced of the benefits.
But how do they actually go about building one?
What are the actual steps involved?
That's a great question, and it all starts with understanding the key components of a modern data stack.
The building blocks, so to speak.
Exactly. So the first component is data collection and ingestion.
Which is all about getting data from your various sources into your central data warehouse.
That sounds pretty straightforward.
It is in theory, but in practice, it can be quite complex.
Why is that?
Well, because you've got data coming from all these different places.
Different system formats, different levels of quality.
Exactly, and you need to build what are called data pipelines to extract that data from those source systems, transform it into a consistent format, and load it into your warehouse.
And that often requires specialized knowledge and skills.
It can be quite a technical process.
That's where tools like Fivetran come in.
Fivetran.
Yeah, Fivetran is a popular data integration tool that specializes in automating this data ingestion process.
So it takes care of all that complex pipeline building for you.
Pretty much. It connects to all sorts of different applications and databases.
And it has pre-built connectors and data schemas.
Which means you don't have to write all the code yourself.
So it simplifies things a lot.
Exactly. So once you've got your data flowing into your warehouse, the next step is data preparation and cleaning.
Ah, yes. This is where the real fun begins.
It's definitely not the most glamorous part of the process.
But it's absolutely crucial.
Because, let's face it, data is rarely perfect.
It could be messy, inconsistent, and full of errors.
You might have the same customer information in your CRM system and your accounting system.
But with slightly different spellings or addresses,
Or maybe you have duplicate records.
or missing values,
So data preparation is all about cleaning up that mess
transforming it into a consistent and reliable format.
and making sure it's accurate and complete,
And that involves things like standardizing data formats,
identifying and merging duplicates,
filling in missing values,
and validating data against business rules.
and documenting where the data came from and what transformations it's gone through.
Right, that's called data lineage.
It's like a family tree for your data.
Okay, so once you've cleaned and prepared your data, you need a place to store it.
That brings us to data storage.
And the most common option for a modern data stack is a cloud-based data warehouse.
Like Snowflake, which we talked about earlier.
Right, or sometimes a data lake, which is a more flexible storage option that can handle unstructured data as well.
Like images, videos, and social media posts,
And increasingly, we're seeing data lake houses.
which combine the best features of data warehouses and data lakes.
Exactly. So regardless of the specific technology you choose, the key thing is that you have a central, secure, and scalable storage solution for your data.
Where it can be accessed and analyzed as the people who need it.
And finally, we have data visualization.
This is where the data comes to life.
It's about taking all that data that you've collected, cleaned, and stored.
And turning it into insights that are easy to understand and act on.
Because a spreadsheet full of numbers isn't very helpful on its own.
You need to be able to see the patterns and trends.
And communicate those insights to others.
And that's where data visualization tools come in.
Tools like Tableau, which is a very popular choice for building interactive dashboards and reports.
There are a lot of great options out there these days.
Okay, so we've talked about the 4 key components of a modern data stack.
Data collection, data preparation, data storage, and data visualization.
Now, let's talk about some specific tools that fit into these different categories.
The tools that actually make all this happen.
Right. But before we do that, I think it's important to emphasize one really crucial point that our source highlighted.
And what's that?
There's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to building a modern data stack.
You can't just copy and paste what someone else is doing.
Exactly. The right tools for your organization will depend on your specific needs, your budget, and your level of technical expertise.
So it's important to do your research.
Absolutely. Figure out what's going to work best for you.
Don't just jump on the latest bandwagon.
Okay, so with that said, let's look at some examples.
Some real-world tools that people are using to build modern data stacks.
For data collection and ingestion, one tool that gets mentioned a lot is Fivetran.
We talked about that one earlier.
We did, and it's popular for a reason.
What makes it so great?
Well, it's known for being really easy to use.
Even for people who aren't data engineers?
Exactly, and it has a wide range of pre-built connectors to all sorts of different data sources.
So you can get up and running pretty quickly.
Right, and it handles all the technical details of data extraction, transformation, and loading for you.
So you can focus on the analysis and the insights.
For data preparation, one tool that's really gaining traction these days is dbt.
dbt, I've heard that name floating around.
It's definitely a hot topic in the data world right now.
What's so special about it?
Well, it's a data transformation tool that allows you to work directly within your data warehouse.
So you don't have to move the data around to different tools.
Exactly, and it uses a really interesting approach that combines SQL,
which is a common language for working with databases.
with software engineering best practices.
So you can write clean, reusable, and testable data transformation code.
It's a really powerful way to manage and ensure the quality of your data.
Okay, so what about data storage?
Well, for that, Snowflake is still a very popular choice.
Snowflake is like the rock star of data warehouses these days.
It is, and it's a really impressive platform.
What makes it so impressive?
Well, it's cloud native, which means it's built from the ground up to run in the cloud.
So it's super scalable and performant?
Exactly, and it can handle both structured and semi-structured data.
Which is great for those organizations that have a lot of different types of data.
And it has a ton of great features for data security, governance, and collaboration.
It's a really comprehensive solution.
And finally, for data visualization, one of the most popular tools out there is Tableau.
Tableau is pretty much the gold standard for data visualization.
It is, and it's known for being really user-friendly and powerful.
So you can build beautiful and interactive dashboards and reports.
Without needing to be a coding expert.
Exactly. It's all drag and drop and point and click.
Okay, so that's a quick overview of some of the key players in the modern data stack world.
But of course, there are many other great tools out there as well.
It's a rapidly evolving space.
Absolutely.
So, to wrap things up, I think the big takeaway here is that the modern data stack represents a real shift in how organizations think about and manage their data.
It's not just about the technology, it's about a change in mindset.
It's about making data more accessible, more usable, and more valuable to the entire organization.
And that can have a profound impact on a company's ability to compete and succeed.
So, if you're still struggling with data silos, slow reporting, and manual processes, it might be time to start exploring what a modern data stack could do for you.
It's definitely worth considering.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the modern data stack. We hope you found it informative and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Until next time.
See you later.